Welcome back, focused learners. Let's jump right in. Today's explainer is unpacking a highly specific and profoundly ambitious text by author Zhu Feng. This is a text that attempts to map out absolutely nothing less than the ultimate spiritual truth of the universe, specifically looking at the Tao and the Lifechanyuan. So let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the opening hook, because the author doesn't start small here. Right off the bat, the Tao is established as this impossibly vast cosmic force. We're not just talking about a philosophical idea. The text describes it literally as the blood of the universe. It's framed as the actual force maintaining the orderly operation of reality itself. So, the stakes are set immediately. We are talking about the absolute ultimate truth of existence. Now, what's really fascinating is how the author defines the Tao in an even more all-encompassing way. It's not just some abstract energy. It's presented as the literal consciousness and spirit of what the text calls the greatest creator. According to the source material, the Tao contains all the mysteries of the universe. It's an umbrella so massive that it seamlessly unifies gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, and the creator all into one harmonious unity. But you might be wondering, if the Tao is this massive cosmic entity, how does it actually relate to us? Well, that brings us to the second half of the equation, the virtue. The text defines virtue as the earthly manifestation of the Tao. It's a very specific inner quality, and it's possessed only by the highest sages and wise individuals. Practically speaking, the author posits that this virtue is the sole driving force propelling human society forward toward rationality, health, and joy. Pursuing these two concepts, according to the text, is the ultimate hallmark of the wise. And it's an intense pursuit. We're talking so intense that true seekers are left practically sleepless, their hearts just filled with passionate emotion. Why? Because pursuing the Tao is seen as the literal pursuit of the greatest creator and eternal life, while going after virtue is the pursuit of sainthood and a perfect life. And this brilliantly sets up the author's first major dichotomy. On one side, you have these revered, transcendent historical figures like Lao Tzu, who the text praises for profoundly understanding the Tao. On the other side, well, you have modern experts, officials, professors, scholars. With a bit of amusing bluntness, the text actually dismisses these modern thinkers as totally comical. It likens them to blindfolded people wandering in a maze, or, and this is great, preschool children trying to discuss quantum mechanics. It's a very stark contrast between ancient wisdom and what the author views as modern academic arrogance. To really drive this point home, the author leans into a highly vivid metaphor from the ancient philosopher Zhuangzi. The text argues that atheists, who only acknowledge the physical, material world, are fundamentally incapable of grasping the Tao. It's like a short-lived morning mushroom doesn't understand the concept of a full day, right? Or a summer cicada simply cannot fathom winter snow. In the same way, the text claims atheists are inherently deficient. Because they reject the non-material world, they're forever blind to the full picture. So you might think, okay, religious believers, theists, they must get a pass here, right? Actually, scratch that. They don't get a pass either. The author argues that without cultivating true virtue, theists can devolve into something much worse than atheists. While an atheist might only terrorize the physical body, the text posits that misguided theists exert terror over the spiritual and ethereal aspects of humanity. And that makes them far more terrifying and destructive. So it begs the question, if these sages actually hold the ultimate truth, why isn't everyone following them? Well, the author posits that ordinary people fundamentally misunderstand sages, basically viewing them through a lens of their own inherent bias. The everyday public constantly projects their own petty desires onto the wise. You know, if a sage teaches morality, the greedy assume they secretly want money. The vain assume they want fame, and the ambitious suspect they're really just hungry for power. Check out this fascinating metaphor straight from the text to explain this. The author compares the masses to a flock of suspicious sheep. Imagine them looking at their shepherd and whispering, "He must secretly want to be the sheep king." It really highlights the absolute absurdity of the mundane mind suspecting a higher spiritual guide of wanting worldly, mundane dominance. I mean, why would a human want to be a sheep? To back this up, the text points to some major historical heavyweights. When people tried to make Jesus the king of Israel, he actively fled from the opportunity. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was literally born a prince who could have unified kingdoms, yet he completely walked away from that worldly power. The text uses these examples to prove that true sages actively avoid worldly dominance. Judging them by ordinary standards is, as the author puts it, like a frog at the bottom of a well trying to understand a dragon in the ocean. Having established just how profoundly nearly everyone completely misunderstands this ultimate truth, we hit a critical turning point in our explainer. We have to ask the text's pivotal question. If the experts are blind, the atheists are deficient, and ordinary people are trapped in their own petty biases, who is actually capable of achieving and possessing the Tao and its virtue? Here's where the text starts a rapid-fire elimination process. The author systematically argues that members of existing religious organizations and political parties are fundamentally incapable of holding true virtue. Why? Because the text claims these groups are just too fragile. They claim their specific doctrines are the sole truth. They dismissed everything else as heresy, and they're terrified of exposing their followers to outside ideas. That lack of resilience completely disqualifies them. The author reserves a particularly harsh critique for a group called the Guardians of Orthodoxy. These are traditionalists who the text likens to ancient Pharisees or senile ministers just clinging to ancestral decrees. They are literally described as furious gatekeepers with fossilized minds who erupt with rage at the first sign of a fresh thought. Because they are so obsessed with crushing the new to protect the old, they are entirely cut off from the Tao. And the funnel of elimination just keeps going. Next on the chopping block are pure natural scientists and sociologists. The text claims their thinking is way too rigid. They could never accept, for instance, that physical illnesses might stem from non-material spiritual flaws. Finally, the ordinary public is eliminated. Now, they aren't criticized maliciously, but the text notes they are simply too preoccupied with basic survival, food, clothing, shelter, to dedicate the massive energy required to explore the cosmos. So, with pretty much all of society eliminated from the running, religious groups, politicians, traditionalists, scientists, and the everyday public all disqualified, we are left with a massive void. This brings us to the text's ultimate rhetorical question. If literally no one we know can hold this ultimate cosmic truth, who then can possess the Tao and its virtue? The Changyuan Celestials. The definitive answer provided by the text. This is the grand reveal. The singular group introduced by the author to fill humanity's spiritual void. To explain this incredibly bold claim, and to defend against accusations of arrogance, the text outlines exactly why the Lifechanyuan is uniquely qualified. The author asserts that unlike the rigid religions or political parties dismissed earlier, Lifechanyuan is an open, infinitely evolving system. It doesn't serve a specific nation, class, or faction. It serves the entire cosmic life system and happily welcomes wisdom from every single source. Because it is totally boundless, it is deemed the only vessel capable of holding the Tao. Now, the author doesn't just offer this up as a neat philosophical option. There are very severe consequences outlined for ignoring it. The text states that in the future, it might be fine to be ignorant of Shakespeare or the Mayan culture or even modern science. But ignorance of Lifechanyuan, that will signify that a person has spiritually stagnated. The author uses incredibly harsh terms here, claiming that those who ignore this truth will decay and are literally on the path to becoming a mummy. Looking ahead, the text predicts this massive impending awakening. A great number of these Chuanyuan celestials will supposedly emerge from their cocoons and soar like the legendary Kunpeng, which is a massive mythological creature, demonstrating towering strength, boundless talent, and incredibly noble character all across the world. Which brings us to the author's definitive, absolute conclusion. Having deconstructed all other belief systems, societal structures, and human experts, the text impartially rests on this singular, monumental claim. The ultimate cosmic truth, the Tao, and its virtue, will be embodied solely and exclusively by the Chenyuan Celestials. It is their mandated destiny to use these virtues to lead humanity toward a bright and beautiful future. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. We've seen how the text passionately champions an open, boundless cosmic system that incorporates all wisdom, yet simultaneously arrives at a highly specific, exclusionary conclusion that only one designated group holds the keys. So it makes us ask, if ultimate cosmic truth is truly boundless, does humanity benefit more from rallying behind an exclusionary final answer or from committing to a perpetual open search? Keep questioning, focused learners, and I'll see you in the next explainer.